Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast. Who are our favorite female leads across all fandoms? Well, today we're going to be talking about that and a lot more. This is Systematic Geekology. We are the priest to the geeks. I am Joshua Noel, here with the co-host, probably the host that appears the most, Christian Ashley, and we are also joined by the one and only wonderful return guest, hopefully y'all's favorite guest. I say hopefully, but then I feel like I say that about every guest. But I do think she's probably
for real.
Yeah, like she's probably my favorite returning guest. The Reverend Dr. Leah Robinson. It's so great to have you back. I think this is the first time we've had you not specifically on to talk about Alien or Star Wars. So like maybe we can get around.
It might creep up again though.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's still going to be here, but at least we could talk about things other than just the same two things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's going to be fun. But before we do any of that, we do have to go over what we've been geeking out on recently. I'll go first, give you guys time to think. Mine's super easy. Getting ready to go to Orlando for Disney and Universal's Halloween Horror Nights and all that. So I'm geeking out on like Halloween stuff. I'm like rewatching Fallout, watching some of the like Disney villain shorts and different stuff like that. And I'm having a fun time with it. Of course, have my own music playlist for the trip because I always do that because I am a loser. And here, Christian, what are you geeking out on, man?
Well, speaking of Alien, I have been enjoying Alien Earth, and it's been really good so far. I'm hoping they keep it up.
Yeah, I do hear we have an episode about that and some other stuff coming up that I don't know if Will's invited Leah to yet, but he's planning to.
Well, Christian stole my answer because I was going to. It's okay. I mean, in terms of like geek fandom, it's sort of the big one at the minute, and you know, you're just But I mean, I will say my husband's watching Andor, and he's like, Andor is not even about Star Wars. It's about the world. It's about Star Wars, but it's like more political commentary. And I'm like, I think Alien Earth is absolutely on that same train. Is like the aliens are not even like the people are the bad guys so far, basically.
My current plan with Alien Earth is to just keep doing what I'm doing, where I'm like playing games and like getting ready for Disney and Halloween and blah. And then when I get back from my trip, my first day off, I'm just going to binge wherever we're at in the season to catch up. That's my thought. Because I'm excited for it. I'm just too like distracted. I'm like hyper fixated, you know?
Sometimes it's nice to binge stuff, but I just can't with this one. I'm too excited. I've also been trying to catch up with Doctor Who. So I've watched the whole of Doctor Who. So this is one I haven't talked about on your podcast.
We need to.
I know, but I need to catch up because I'm back a season. So I need to catch up. But
Christian and I have publicly disagreed on the most recent season.
Oh, I could be a tiebreaker. Let's see.
Yeah,
I can't have this up.
All right. Well, with geeking out stuff on the problem is when you have people on like Leah and Christian, like I feel like I could just keep talking forever because y'all are just fun to chat with. But we do have to move on. So, listeners, if you're on a laptop, please consider rating and reviewing our show on Podchasers or Good Pods. Those two specifically, they help gain recognition for our show in search engines like Google, which is what a lot of people use to find things. If you're on your phone, consider rating, reviewing, or commenting on our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That'll prioritize our show in those apps' algorithms, which is where most people listen to podcasts. So it's free. It takes literally seconds to do, and it helps our show a ton. So thank you guys so much in advance for that support. We also like to thank our financial supporters from Apple Podcasts, Captivate, and Patreon. Today, we're shouting out Daniel Sigmund. Daniel, you rock. And guys, remember, if you want your own shout out, if you want to be like Daniel, you too can support our show for $3 a month on one of those 3 platforms, Apple Podcasts, Captivate, or Patreon. So with that, we're going to jump into the episode proper. And I'm excited for this one. It's going to be a lot of fun. Kicking things off, before we get specifically into our top 5 female leads, I want to talk to Leah, our guest, Leah Robinson. Could you maybe talk to us about why you think, if you think, it's important to have strong and well thought out female leads in our media today?
Well, I think you know the answer before I say this.
I hope. It'd be really funny if you went the other way.
I was like, you know what? I don't really think it. In fact, I'm leaving. I'm out. Whatever.
That'd be a perfect episode, I think.
It really would. And just like exit.
It'd be so funny.
I don't need
leave
to be
Christian and I to ponder. Have we made a grave mistake?
Female leads, which is totally fine. Okay, yeah. So I think, I am I've got a background in practical theology, but a lot of that lends itself to liberation and feminist theology. I didn't think I was going to fall into that, but growing up where I grew up, in the system that I grew up, I ended up, as kind of just to get through, I had to invest in feminist theology. So I think the idea that we have these female characters is important because, you have to be able to, people always talk about, representation and things like that and how it matters to see yourself in certain spaces. And as someone who struggled a lot growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, I didn't see the representation where I thought it should be and where I felt called to be. And so it's really, I think it is really important for women and also honestly anyone to see that there are, people or women occupying spaces that perhaps historically they haven't been in. And, I really do think it's good for women to be empowered by that, but it's also good for everyone else to see that these spaces can be occupied by different folks.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny to me, and I'm going to just go ahead and break open the thing that my co-host and guest here are going to disagree about. And it probably makes me an awful podcaster that I'm getting us off the rails so early, but who cares? ADHD, good excuse. Okay. So for me, it was really funny. It wasn't until I went to college that I really knew that this whole debate of whether women could be pastors or not even existed. It was just, I didn't know it was a thing. I grew up Pentecostal and very conservative Pentecostal by most people's standards. They're not okay with same-sex marriage and they believe the Bible's literal, all that stuff. But I had women pastors my whole life. I knew I had a babysitter who was a women pastor. And I was like, yeah, I grew up with female leads in media. I just kind of took it for granted. And then I saw the worst in, I'll say, I want to say best, but it always feels strange seeing best of something you disagree with, but I've seen the worst and best of people who don't agree that, women should be leaders in certain capacities like pastors and stuff. You have those that are only men should lead. And then you have those where no, technically the pastorship, I believe, is resemblance of whatever. And I still think that it's bogus, but I'm there's reasonable arguments. And then there's, oh, you just don't like women arguments.
Yeah,
and I came across both later in life.
It mostly comes from the Paul verse, and you can say, oh, Leah, you're just throwing that away, the Paul verse. But we'll get into it later because I saw some Bible questions. There's a lot of verses in the Bible that we just kind of don't really engage with if it doesn't fit what we want in society.
Oh, those aren't literal.
Okay. Let me go to Red Lobster and eat my endless shrimp and lobster. There's a lot of stuff that we sort of, we sort of jump over, or we say, oh no, that's contextual. Paul wasn't talking about us. And it's okay, well, so anyway, it's been a battle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since I shined a giant spotlight on an elephant in the room, Christian, do you want to respond to any of this as the one person who disagrees with the other two here?
As a biblical literalist, for the most part, unless it's obviously metaphor, I do not see any representation of women being allowed in the pastorate role. Just beyond Paul, I would look at Jewish history before Jesus comes on the scene, and I see Jesus among the 12. As subversive as he was, if he really wanted women to lead, why wasn't there a woman among the 12? If he really because he didn't care about society. He didn't care about culture. He cared about what he wanted to get done. So I see multiple reasons for it not to be done. And I know there's disagreements against that. And I'm glad we can be here today.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I would say Junia and Mary Magdalene.
I'll say, yeah. Leah and I will point to several women leaders that are in scripture, and then we'll get told why they aren't specific things. And then we'll get into some arguments about really specific tenses of Greek words, and everyone will be like, man, this is exactly what we came for.
Yeah.
Or we can talk about our favorite leads, starting with, guys, what was the first, like, for you, and it's weird that I actually have a really specific memory because I thought I wasn't going to be able to answer this. The first lead character that was a female that you were like, man, I am completely enthralled. I am inspired by this person that you remember. You know, it's possible we had some before we remember. We're all getting older. Y'all want me to go first?
Like
or
fandom or like in just life in general?
I was thinking like fandoms, but it could be anything. Do you want me to go first to kind of like, I don't know, help show what I mean by the question? Okay. For me, super easy. I'm going to have to like nuance this answer a little bit. I want to say Leia, but realistically, I was never enthralled by Leia. I thought she looked nice. Like I was attracted to Leia. She was my first crush. My first hero that I was like inspired by. This is really weird, but I think it's because I just was introduced to it so early. Lara Croft. I was a kid when I played those games, so I never saw her as like, you know, anything other than a really pixelated woman character who was basically Indiana Jones, but I got to be Indiana Jones. And then like just kind of that realization of like, oh yeah, a girl can be Indiana Jones. I'm like, this is awesome. And yeah, that's it for me. Really. I loved Lara Croft as a kid, still do. The new games, I think, super on point, great stuff. Christian, Laura, who wants to go next?
I will go, if you don't mind. Because it was weird because I had all my like horror girlies and sci-fi girlies written down, and it suddenly came to my mind is whose poster did you have on your wall whenever you were like 5? She-Ra, Princess of Power. I had her like stuff, and it was so funny because as you were talking, I'm glad you went first because it started stirring that in my head. Because I was like, oh no, I had the horse and I had the sword and she had the sword and, you know, of course she looked like something out of a Playboy magazine because men made her, but you know, she also had a sword. And I loved She-Ra. And I remember later learning there was a He-Man and I only learned it after.
That's excellent.
I was like, oh, there's a guy too. That's good for him. Good job.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
All right. Christian, who's the first one that you recall?
I'm going to cheat like I always do and put 2. The first one I can actually remember would have been Mary Jane Watson in the animated Spider-Man cartoon. And her showing up on the scene, saying, "Phase it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." I'm like 7 years old. And I'm like, Peter, I think you did. And then it's not just, hey, this is a really attractive woman, but this is someone who carries herself really well, who knows who she is very proud of that. And is also very kind, also very understanding. I really appreciated that. But my actual answer besides that is Relina Peacegraph from Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. Growing up, you know, boy, I saw giant robots blowing each other up. Love that. But there was also this character in a show, and she's like, look, I'm a pacifist. And I'm like, what the heck is a pacifist? And her whole thing was, it said, look, I don't like when people die. I don't like when people have to go through these things. We shouldn't be like this. And I'm like, yeah, that's incredibly naive, but at the same time, it's the ideal, what we should be pushing towards. So she's someone I've always looked back on as a character, to the point where the Gundam franchise itself has kind of created clones of her in separate series, you know, since they do AU stuff, because she was so popular with people.
Man, okay, that's good. I'm going to throw out there to make myself look bad early on too. Mary Jane, I always thought of as like, realistically, I just thought she was a plot device until Spider-Man Web of Shadows, when that game came out, and I was like, oh, I like her. And then I realized, which I've realized this about a lot of things, I had this tendency all throughout, like up until like college, anything romantic related at all, I just skipped or turned off or went to another room till I thought it might be over. So like Star Wars Episode 2, I thought was a great movie, but I realized later it's because I literally skipped all of those parts where Anakin was on that.
Josh, you're going to tell me that you skipped Megan Fox and Transformers? I don't believe it.
I didn't even watch Transformers.
Did you not?
Until like a year ago, maybe.
Well, okay, fair enough.
And even then, I feel like I barely watched it. I was like, I don't like the director for those. I can't remember his name.
Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Michael Bay.
I just don't like Michael Bay.
Just flames everywhere.
Yeah, it's just like random explosions all the time, and I'm like, I don't need this. He did Ninja Turtles and hurt my feelings. But anyway, we'll move on. So what we're gonna start one at a time with our number 5 pick. We'll each go through our character, give a couple sentences about why we're picking them as one of our top 5 female leads. Bonus points if you think of any biblical characters that maybe would relate to the character you pick. And you could steal points from someone else if you think of a Bible character and they don't, that relates to their character. Also, as always, I got to throw out like my top 5 in this could change in the next 5 minutes. Like this is not like for me, like there's a few that like have a solid place, but it's like I'll think about it and be like, man, I can't believe I didn't think of She-Ra. You know?
I mean,
I'll be like,
you're not wrong. I had a hard time making my top 5. I had a hard time putting like only like 16 honorable mentions, and I had to stop and realizing if I was going to go more, it was going to take up the entire episode.
Yeah, I don't know. My brain works in weird and mysterious ways that I'm like, man, I didn't think about my absolute favorite one. Why didn't I say it's going to happen inevitably? And I just got to throw that disclaimer out because people are like, that's really your top 5? And I'll be like, not now.
Well, and I had 7 and I rearranged right as we started. I was just like, but I did realize because I'm a teacher that there's themes, and I think it's interesting to see the themes as well.
Ooh. I feel like there's probably themes with mine too. Yeah. I try to get us all to not know one another's picks, or at least what order they're in. Mm-hmm. I know some of who Leah's picks are. I don't remember the order she gave them to me, and she changed it. And I don't think anybody else knows whose is whose. So for those listening or watching, we're all going to be surprised by our picks, except for like Leah's number 1 pick. For me, I feel like it's going to be probably obvious, unless she changed it on me, which would be great.
I sure
we had that once before on one of these episodes. All right. So I'll start and then we'll go Christian, Leah, and we'll just keep going in that circle if that works. My number 5, I'm going to go with Princess Bean. Yeah, I'm going to go Princess Bean from Disenchantment. I love this series. It was a fun little cartoon kind of thing. And it's a weird pick because at least the first couple seasons, she's awful. She is absolutely wretched and terrible, and even just kind of a selfish person. And you're like, why is she here? And then you learn more about her background, and it's not like you get sympathy for it. It's more of a like, oh, that's why she is the way she is, and she addresses those problems. And the character development, like by the end, I'm like, yeah, no, I actually would be okay with her being my queen. Like she kind of rocks. And for me, character development trumps all else. It's probably why I have like terrible ratings on some movies. Everybody else is like, this is a great film, and I'm like, that person was good at the beginning and is still good at the end. That's boring. I want character growth. I want change. And I feel like Bean embodies that. So she's just so cool. I'm gonna kind of do a correlation with Deborah. That'll be my Bible correlation here. Not because I think Deborah changed that much in her storyline, but like just that kind of like attitude of I'm just gonna go kill this guy. Totally gives Princess Bean to me, where like you just take charge. I'm just going to do the thing. It's great. So that's where I'm at. So that's my number 5. For number 5, Christian, who are you going with?
Number 5 for me, if I can get there all the way down, I'm going to choose Elisa Mazza from Gargoyles. I really love this show growing up, and she was a huge part of it. And it was just a part of that. She was no nonsense. She was, by the books. This is how things are supposed to be done. But at the same time, she was also willing to be flexible with the rules if it meant protecting her friends. And dealing with extra normal circumstances, I don't think gargoyles are protected by the laws of New York City. So she had to find ways to look after them. And also at the same time, there were plenty of opportunities where she herself failed. And one of those was a great episode where she did not lock her gun safely away. And in many other kid shows, this wouldn't have been handled well. But Greg Weisman, what he does is he knows cartoons, he knows characters. And he had a moment where I think it's Broadway. One of the gargoyles takes it out thinking it's just a gun, it's a toy, and he accidentally shoots her. And for the rest of the show, it deals with the consequences of that. She locks it up. She makes sure that there's proper controls for this. And as well, her relationship with Goliath is huge. in an interspecies relationship that's immediately frowned down upon when gargoyles are found out by the world. I think she's totally awesome. I was trying to think of a Bible character to relate her to, and I'm having a hard time. And there's parts of me that want to throw like older Bathsheba out there, and how like when she's counseling Solomon early on before he becomes king of like what he should do. I think there's aspects I'd throw there. I don't know if I'd throw a 1-to-1 there, but it's something I thought about.
All right. That's a good one.
All right.
Leah, number 5. Where are we at?
Number 5. This one's going to be controversial. Sansa
Perfect.
Stark from Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
Yep.
Oh.
Number 5. That's my number 5 as it gets rearranged. She was actually my number 7 on the list that I gave you, but she's moved up because I would argue that she won the Game of Thrones. Like that would be the argument that I have in that series. Now that series has a lot of issues, and especially towards the end, they rush the heck out of it, out of what was potentially could have been the best TV show of all time, I would argue. But they kind of killed it at the end. But Sansa starts off, she's talking about character development, Joshua. She starts off as this young, ignorant kind of girl that doesn't know anything about the world, but just wants to be the queen, right? And then she goes and she survives. Lots of people die in that show, and she survives, and she watches her whole family, who all thought that they were making all the right choices, get massacred. And by the end, some people would say, well, Bran Stark is spoiler, sorry for Game of Thrones people, but Bran Stark is the actual king of King's Landing. And I would argue she didn't want to be the king of King's or the queen of King's Landing at the end. She wanted to be what she was, and she got it in the end, and she was a completely changed character. So her arc is incredible throughout the show. And again, there are moments where I'm like, I would not have made that choice, but she maneuvers and she gets to it, and she gets absolutely abused throughout the whole thing. But in the end, she sits on the throne at Winterfell, and she is the Queen of the North.
Yeah. Hey guys, again, thank you so much for listening to our show and being part of the Systematic Geekology team. If you want to support our team, you can do so by going to Captivate. And I know most people don't listen on Captivate, but it's in the description wherever you're listening. You can go to our website. At the very bottom, you have the options to either subscribe, and you'll get some extra content and fun stuff, like our bonus questions, all those kind of things that hopefully you all come to love as much as I love making them with our fellow geekologists on the team. We also are hoping to do some future D&D campaigns, stuff like that, and all that's available for our sponsors. But if you don't have those extra funds and you're not really into the subscription thing, you can also leave a one-time tip, just one-time thing to help out our show as we kind of stay in the game with podcasting, keep relevant with all the technology and all that stuff. And it costs a lot to run a show, and we appreciate you for your help. Again, thank you so much for listening. We value your time, and it means a lot to us that you give us your time by listening to our show and supporting us in that way. If you feel led to support financially as well, we appreciate that. Let's get back to the show.
So biblically, I would say she reminds me a lot of, I mentioned this earlier, but Mary Magdalene, I think, is an incredible figure in the Bible that doesn't get the credit because of some pope equating her to Gregory the First, equating her to a lady of the night, which never is not in the Bible. And so I think, she is a figure who really it's only, I would say, she goes through the same kind of arc of, she's truly this important person. Clearly she's around, she's mentioned. And part of the reason it's going to be hard to equate biblical characters is there are more unnamed women in the Bible than named by a significant amount. And so she has this arc of, she was with Jesus. In the Apocrypha, she actually comes out as someone who gets the things that Jesus are saying in a way that some of those dudes don't. And in the end, she gets lambasted. But now we're seeing in more recent theological literature, she's coming out as being a hero again. So
yeah, I like that. Yeah, my controversial bit, I guess. There are some characters like I can't remember her name. Stark lady here.
Sansa.
Yeah. Sansa. Yeah. There are a few characters that I really do appreciate But as a whole, like all the way through, I was just so bored of Game of Thrones. I was like, I don't get it. This is awful.
Joshua.
I don't know. I think it dragged on too long for me. I was like, I just can't.
After season 6, they don't resemble themselves anymore to me.
I mean, each individual episode for me, like I was like dozing off every episode. Yeah.
Yeah, like this could very easily be like Khaleesi, Amelia Clark's character, but they destroyed her entire arc in like an episode. And I think that the thing with Sansa is she, you may not like her, and that's fair. But she's consistent, and you can see her journey and the things that happen to her and how they affect her. And by the end, she is a stone cold ruler of the North. But you can see the steps that got her there. It's
a good character though. Okay, all right. My number 4 isn't in the slides because I didn't think of this person until we started recording. I told you it's gonna constantly change. Helena Shaw from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. God, I loved her character. I love that actor as well. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, fantastic. And just I think the thing that really stood out to me was that 4th Indiana Jones happened, Crystal Skull. I've come to like it more than I once did, which was a great deep hatred. So anything's more than I used to like it. But they did that, and they tried to make what's his face? I can't think of the actor's name, but they tried to make him into like the next Indiana Jones, and I think the plan was like to go with him.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, and then there was like all the drama and stuff associated with him and his whatever, and it just didn't work. And I feel like even if it didn't happen, it just wasn't going to work. Like no one is going to be Indiana Jones except for Harrison Ford. Like it can't happen. Like I just don't see it. I think the way forward is going to exclusively be in video games. They're able to capture the magic a little bit in that new Indiana Jones game, and I feel like probably what we're going to get. But man, this character Helena Shaw shows up, and I'm like, yeah, she's definitely not Indiana Jones, but this is the first time they had another character in that franchise that I'm like, I would follow that character. If they made that character a movie, I'd be there. I'd want to see it. I want to know what happens next with her. She had that, kind of promiscuousness that Indiana Jones had. She had a little bit of that I don't care attitude. It's for fame and glory. And you still see a little bit of a change of heart, but she still has that like young free spirit that the old Indiana Jones did. And I'm like, man, I love it. And just people who have that sense of adventure who then just go out and act on it always inspire me, because I have that same sense of adventure. I just typically don't go out and act on it. So when I see people who do, even on film, I'm like, yeah, that's what I wish I would do. And so I found her inspiring and just cool. And no, I don't have any biblical characters I feel like I can think of for her. But that's my number 4. All right. Christian, number 4.
Yes. My number 4 is going to be Mikoto Misaka from a certain scientific railgun / a certain magical index. It is a Japanese light novel, anime, manga series. And she is one of the reasons why I love this show, especially she's a young girl who in this world, there are people, no superpowers with superpowers, and she's near the very top of the top. So she's got a real big, what's the word for? Goodness gracious, something on your shoulder, chip on her shoulder, about the fact that she's one of the greatest, and her power is the railgun. And what you see here is one way she uses it is that she'll break coins, flip them at someone, and they'll go at supersonic speeds and take down her enemies. And she's very haughty. She's very prideful, but she's also very sweet to her friends. And a part of the series along the way is learning that she doesn't have to be the top. She doesn't have to be the best. She doesn't have to get all the fame and glory. She has to do her job, which is to grow up, as a kid, because she's just a middle schooler. And, you're not supposed to take care of the whole world at that age. You're supposed to let adults do that. And then some part of this is her correcting adults and getting them to get to do their jobs. So there's a nice mix of all that there. She's she's kind of the essence of the tsundere character, which is very off-puttish and angry at times, but also very sweet when you actually get to know them. So that's a huge part of her there. Now, biblical characters. Oh man, that's a good one. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm not even going to bother just naming names for the sake of naming names.
Leah, do you want to try and steal it? Can you think of any character Bible-wise that relates?
It sounds like, was she like a bit of a misunderstood character? You said that she had to, or did people not get her, or was it?
They get her. She's in your face, very proud of it. There's no disregarding that.
Maybe a JL that just spiking right through the head of that.
It gets things done.
She gets things done, and to protect her people is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I dig it. Ah, man. All right, Leah, number 4. Where are we at?
Number 4. So there are some recency biases in these two, but I'm going to say Jodie Whittaker of Doctor Who fame. So basically the Doctor, essentially. And so she is my number 4 choice. Is she my favorite Doctor? She is not my favorite Doctor. David Tennant lives forever in my heart.
Amen.
And
hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
I know. Praise the Lord.
Speaking in tongues happening here.
And I'm obsessed with him, as are most people. But I think with her, it was, she really had to do something just absolutely that the fandom was pushing back on. Just incredible. She had to walk in these shoes and create something completely different, and a Doctor that was completely her own. And that's one of the things I love about the Doctors, at least the ones I've seen. We can debate the new season. I'm not seeing it. Is that they make the Doctor their own in their own way. And so there's an episode that, if you've not watched her season, is called Rosa. And I always like the history ones better than the sci-fi ones, which really annoys my husband Stuart, but it's true. So there's one about Rosa Parks, and it's just such, I played in class actually when we were talking about American history, and it's such an emotional ending of an episode where they see her on the bus and all of this stuff. And there's just, if you watch, you can get on YouTube and watch the little clips, but if you watch her, there is a extreme, and it's hard to put a thing on, but if there's a feminine quality that I don't think any of the other Doctors could have brought to that scene, that meant that she was really the best Doctor for that scene. Even if my love, David Tennant, sorry Stuart, had shown up on that bus, it would not have been the same scene. And I'm not talking about sort of the stereotypes of women of like sappy or crying or, they're too emotional or hysterical to, read the Bible or anything like that. Or to, conquer the world in this case, or help save the world, I guess. She's just the right person in that scene at that time. And so what she did for Doctor Who, I am forever grateful. I see myself in her the first time that I went to preach at a church, and there was a whole back row of men, and they just walked out of the church when I started. And this was a church that affirmed women as pastors. And that moment lives in my brain pretty rent free. And so when I see her on the screen, I think, good, this is good. It's not just playing fan service or playing to, diversity. It is good that she is on the screen playing this character. So I would say it's not biblical, but I would say little Leah. That's who she reminds me of.
I was going to say like Julia. We don't know anything about Julia, but from what we can tell, it's just a female who's leading a church, getting recognized as a church leader. And to me,
Junia?
I'm like,
Junia?
Yeah, Junia. Thank you.
Junia.
Yeah. I'm just like, we don't know anything about Junia, but to me, the thing about Jodie that was so cool is just like, she had that whimsy. She was her own person still, but she had that same whimsy that David Tennant had. And it was like, oh, wait, the show can be that again. And I got excited for a minute. And then I saw what the show writers did. And it was not her fault. But I was like, man, I don't like what happened to this plot, but I love her as a Doctor. Yeah,
100%. Like, I'm not saying she was the best Doctor. And
could have been if given a better. Yeah.
The writers through that series, if you watch even the Tennant years, like and then the Matt Smith stuff gets real. Like there's some lines of like, storylines that just completely die.
Yeah, outside of like aspects of the 6th Doctor, I can't really think of a time where this had some very bad writing. And I love 6 too, and I love her. It's just she never got a chance to be herself because they just didn't know what they were doing, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah,
it's not the actress's fault that writers are bad at their job.
Yeah. I treat the Nexus storyline the exact same way that I treat Pirates 5. This was fanfic that someone mistakenly published as if it was not fic.
Well, that's that's a lot of the arguments with Game of Thrones is that George R. Martin just couldn't write fast enough to keep
So there are legitimately some of the show is just fanfic.
It really is. It was like,
that's so funny. I never even thought of it like that, but yeah, for sure. All right, Christian, I don't remember if we're on 4 or 3. I think we're on 4.
4.
Wait, you already did 4. So I'm on 3. So it's my turn, right?
Oh, yeah. You're on 3. Sorry,
so I'm on 3. My 3 is a little bit of a cheat. I could plug this is annoying to me, but I could probably plug almost any Disney princess in. I have for a long time been enthralled by the fact that Disney does this thing where like the men were the ones who were just plot devices, right? Like we don't know anything about Prince Charming or Prince Eric is just kind of there, you know, like, and that's one thing that just Disney does really well. And I came really close to saying Alice from Alice in Wonderland or Mulan.
Prince Eric moved on really fast.
Tiana. Oh. Yeah, that's true. We do know that. Really.
He's like, oh, she's got brown hair. I'm into her now. Bye.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Belle from Beauty and the Beast for several reasons. She's what made me feel like reading could be cool. So there's that. And also, throw out disclaimer. If this story was literal, I would be on board with this is Stockholm Syndrome and this is bad.
Oh my gosh.
But it's not a literal story, and it was not the point of the story. One of the things I like that Disney does with their version of the story, though, is she starts off and she loves books and she wants to go out there and like have an adventure. And the adventure she finds isn't, I'm going to go travel the world and do all this stuff, which still would have been cool. But she found adventure in books, right? She found a bigger library. She found a person she could have a relationship with. And that relationship is the adventure in many ways. And I don't know. I love that as much as like, it would be cool if she actually could go to these places. And I think the live action kind of hints at maybe they do go to some of these places, which is kind of cool. But just like her love of books, her being the only smart person in a town full of people who literally can't even spell the word Gaston, you know, like, and I'm like, I love her. She falls for the beast. She makes an adventure out of the life that she has. And it just, I don't know, for me, it's just a good reminder that A, books are cool, and B, your family, the people you are with, can be your adventure if you just live life right, maybe. So I love Belle. I'm gonna go with Belle, and I'm gonna do maybe a weird one. I'm gonna go with Sarah from Abraham and Sarah, because like she starts off with like this isn't gonna happen. This is silly. God, I'm too old. I can't do this. Whatever. And she thinks just like Belle thought she was like stuck in this town and like she wishes she could see the world. And eventually Sarah does kind of make her adventure her family with Abraham. And, all of that. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I kind of see it and I like it. So I'm going to give myself points anyway. No one can tell me no. I'll just end the recording.
I was going to say, you just walk out now.
Yeah, Belle's great. She's my second favorite after Ariel. But yeah, all the reasons you listed and more, perfect. And of course, Kingdom Hearts, what she does to Zaldin, like to get away from him. Pretty smart.
I was trying so hard not to.
Will
Christian's the one that's...
I do appreciate the social commentary that she chose a beast over a human man.
Yeah. Well,
that was just
it's the bear or a man. A bear or a man? Isn't that what the meme is?
Yeah, would you choose a bear or a man? And all the women were like, I choose a bear. We'll roll the dice with the bear.
Yeah, Belle literally.
She did.
Oh man! All right, Christian, what's your number 3?
All right, my number 3 is going to be Storm of the X-Men. Once again, grew up watching her in the X-Men cartoon, but then actually reading the comics themselves when she's introduced by Chris Claremont and Giant Size X-Men and going on through the rest of it. You see her starting off as this woman who's worshipped as a goddess, but they're like, no, you're not this. You're actually a human who is this thing called a mutant. And as a result of that, you're going to be hated and feared across the world. And as that has come up, she learns along the way how to become a superhero, how to care for her teammates, how to love them well, and then eventually become leader of the X-Men in a way that is done naturally. It's not just forced in there. It's something that it makes sense for her character progression, for her to have done this, and for her to be treated with the respect that she does. I've always really loved her character. The cartoon obviously was where I met her, but the comics really enhanced that even more. Halle Berry does a okay-ish job in the movies. I mean, there's few characters besides Wolverine who are given like character development at all in the Fox films. But you know what? She's always been up there. Now, biblical characters, I don't know, it's maybe a bit of a curveball, But I'm thinking Abigail, David's wife, and her wisdom and how she's able to negotiate between her idiot husband at the time and a very angry David who's about to do something he shouldn't do. And she comes to him and is like, look, I know you have all the reason in the world to do this, but please don't. Think it'd be better. And he listens to her counsel to the point where, David being David, he also adds her as a wife later on when her husband does die. But but to be that person to see, like, she could have been killed on the way there, but she chose to do it anyway because it was the right thing to do, even knowing her idiot husband, whose name is literally idiot, Nabal in Hebrew.
I do love that. That little bit is great. I didn't know that Storm became leader of the X-Men. That's really cool. Also, fun fact, I didn't watch I still have not watched the Fox X-Men movies. Like, I watched the Wolverine ones, but I remember the commercial where Storm says the best defense is a good offense. That piece of advice is how I beat literally every single Ratchet and Clank game. I started off trying to like dodge and stuff, and then I was like, wait a minute, what if I just blow everything up? And it turns out that is the correct answer for those specific video games. If anyone are struggling, blow more things up, you'll get through it. All right. Anything else with Storm?
I watched the X-Men with my brother, the cartoons. I haven't seen the movies, but I watched it. Having a little brother really helps you with the whole fandom thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. All right. Leah, number 3. We're still on 3.
Yeah. So number 3 for me is going to be Laurie Strode from Halloween.
Ooh.
Our very first final girl. I love horror. Everyone knows this. That's kind of my fandom, as it were. And part of the reason that I think I really came to love horror the way that I do is because horror really gave women a platform to be these leads that talk about idiot people, idiot men. I mean, I love my man, but the ones in the horror films don't always come across great.
Hey, I resemble that.
And it's funny because we talked about this in the Alien. Ryan Doze and I talked about this in the Alien. Is if you want to survive an alien show or film, you better hitch your wagon to a lady because the men ain't making it out. And it's pretty consistent throughout the films. And you see in horror that same kind of trope and I think for me, Jamie Lee Curtis was the first of those last girl sort of characters that stuck with me, at least. And then in the ones that have been more recent, she's still there. She's still kicking butt. She's still, battling this. Can you imagine how much therapy she's had to go through at this stage? She's like 60 or something in the new movies.
I don't want to imagine.
No, yeah. I know. Her therapy bill is so high.
The problem is she avoided therapy.
I mean, and in the end, if you've seen the more recent films, you can see that it's actually has made her, she's kind of a little tinfoil hat now in the more recent films. She's on lot. Yeah. Like maybe if you were stalked your whole life by a dude that wanted to really kill you hard, that you probably would be like that, I guess. But yeah, so I love her for that. I had Neve Campbell as well, but she's fallen off the list. But she kind of copied anyway what Jamie Lee Curtis did. Bible characters, I'm gonna say Mary in terms of this is also a little bit of curveball. Mary, Mother of Jesus, Mary.
Okay.
There's you talk about literalism of the Bible. I need to be in a Bible study about Mary. Because there's a lot to Mother of Jesus. There's a lot we are going to have to unpack there. But she survives. She survives, and she kind of has to watch all these events unfold. And in the beginning, it feels a little bit like she is kind of passive in a way, and is just kind of accepting what is happening and playing this role. And then by the end, she's standing up there and sort of on her own 2 feet in a way. So
yeah. None of us on this show are Catholic, but I gotta say, when it comes to like the Mary stuff, sometimes I get close. I'm like, I don't prescribe to the need to affirm certain ontological realities that a lot of literalists do. But at the same time, I do believe that, Jesus was literally God and also literally man. So I still take that stance. And what do you do with that when you're like, oh, wait a minute, he had a mom?
He had a mom.
And it's like,
well, and a mom that got impregnated by God?
Question mark. Yeah, that's a part that I'm like, I'm not sure how literal I take that part. I'm unsure. But what I know for certain is that she was his mom. He was God.
I mean, she says Mary, Mother of Jesus, and yeah, she was with some, and not only did impregnate by God, but she was with somebody else at the time.
Yeah, and I feel like
there's a lot there.
I have a little bit easier of a time because I don't have to affirm like original sin and like you inherited the sin of your parents thing. But like if you believe that and that Jesus had to be perfect because he was God and that Mary was his mom, you get in some weird stuff. Like I get where it comes from. I get it.
When I say, and I think this is the best part about theology is like when like Christian, you and I could disagree on the most fundamental issue. But the best part of theology, if you're confident in your theology and and you're also okay with other people having a different theology, is that you can approach it and be like, when I say I want to have a Bible study, what I mean is I want to hear what everyone thinks and be like, oh, I don't, and that's the beauty of theology is that you can go back and forth. Like I may never agree with the Southern Baptists about ordination, but you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm ordained. And they're living their lives. I'm living, I'm not going to do any. But the idea that this is a side chat, but the idea that we've lost the ability to chat about that is actually kind of sad to me.
Someone should do a podcast about ecumenical reconciliation or like church unity, and they should call it the Whole Church Podcast. And it should be on the Anazal Podcast Network, and everyone should subscribe and like it, I think.
And click and like and bell.
Yeah.
Just for TJ's sake.
Yeah, no, but like, yeah, Mary is so interesting, and I agree. I love hearing other people's perspectives, and I love when I'm like, hey, I disagree with your premise, but everything else flows, man. Like, if your premise is right, you're on board. Like, I love stuff like that, where like, I'm going to ignore my own beliefs. I'm going to go with your premise and hear out your logic, and I'm like, okay, yeah I get that.
I think too, we come at it from such different, and I think as long as you're not like aggro about it, that's the only time I shut down. Like if you're not like yelling at me or like, practicing like really oppressive behaviors towards people, then I can hear you out. I mean, I don't have to agree with you, but like, just don't scream about it.
That's why I didn't start this conversation off with "I think you're wrong" and "How dare you be here."
Yeah.
Good shout.
Yeah, it'll be fun. No,
Otherwise, I could never record with Josh.
That is true.
Josh, I've been calling you Josh Noel, by the way, just so you know, if you ever hear me say that.
Oh, that's okay. Lots of people do.
But it's Noel. It's like my southernness.
Yeah. There's a lot of fake lore on why we pronounce it that way. But that's another. Maybe that's a bonus sometime. All
right, bonus.
All right, let's we'll go to number two. Number two. I want to lie. I really do. I want to be like, man, Christian already used a Marvel character. So since we used one, I'll use this other person I wanted to say. But that other person is just, it's not. It's Kamala Khan. The only flaw that Kamala Khan has is it made it really hard for me to say Kamala Harris because they're spelled the same and pronounced totally different. And then it became like a thing where like all Republicans, like the obnoxious ones, were intentionally saying it wrong, but they were saying Kamala. And I'm like, well, that's how I've always said this because that is the correct pronunciation of the character that I love so dearly. And it's just infuriating. Anyway, politics aside, this character is wonderful for many reasons. It's like the best version of the little nerd that lives within me. That's who she is, right? She shows up on the scene, and I don't love what they've done with her since she became like an X-Men person. Sorry, Will, but especially early years, man. She shows up. She has some cool abilities. She's not like the strongest or anything. Very similar to how they treated Peter Parker early on with some of that. But one of the big differences is like she's the geek. She's the one who like loves the Avengers, loves Carol Danvers. She is like a poster of Carol Danvers in her room, right? And the thing that made her so unique and so powerful to me is like, to me as a comic geek, I felt like the comics were starting to lose their way a little bit. And I'm like, man, y'all kind of lost the wagon here, right? Like some of these heroes are like, you're doing stuff. I'm like, this isn't really heroic anymore. And some of the storylines are getting a little wacky. And she shows up on the scene with like the Young Avengers and is like, guys, this isn't what being an Avenger is about. I've loved the Avengers passionately my whole life. This is what it's about. And she goes on this speech, but it's not like a hero speech inspiring people. It's a geek speech telling you what this thing is supposed to be. right? It's like when you hear someone who loves Superman say, this is the ideal man. And you're like, man, I kind of wish I was that. And it's not because they were giving a cool, inspiring speech. It's because they're just a nerd who was telling you stuff about Superman. And that's who she was, man. She showed up like, wait a minute, Spider-Man doesn't do that. This isn't what the Avengers is about. And she starts going off and you're like, and it brought sanity back to the comics, and it brought like cohesion together, and it like inspired the rest of the heroes to start acting like heroes again. And I don't know. I love her. Clearly very passionate about this character, man. Like I'm starting to tear up and I'm like, I can't do that. This is a podcast. Aww. But like, I don't know. I kind of think the MCU is missing out not using her more, because like they're doing the same thing. They kind of lost the wagon a little bit. Let's have Kamala Khan step in and be like, guys, this is not what it's about, because it's not. You know, you shouldn't have the Thunderbolt Avengers and the other Avengers arguing. No, like I want Kamala to show up and be like, no, this is what the Avengers is about. And then everybody to just get along. Because like, I don't know.
Is there something about like, these figures that they have to look like Pamela Anderson?
That's just comic.
I don't even mean that weirdly, not in a feminist way.
The most common superpower in the world is to look like a supermodel. That's all it is.
Like, I feel like,
you know what made me think of it is you're talking about Peter Parker, and he's always played by like these like kind of normal looking dudes.
I feel like her show counterpart looks a lot more normal. And I think early comics, I feel like she looks a lot more like just a normal teenager, but it just kind of depends on the image. But anyway, she's cool. She's passionate and nerdy like me, but uses it for good in a way that inspires people somehow. And I'm like, man, maybe me geeking out about Doctor Who or how much I love like The Last Jedi or something will one day make somebody be like, wait a minute, that is what it's about. And I think that would be cool. And man, Bible characters that correlate, I'm kind of stumped because the girlies don't get as much showtime as I think they should. I think actually, I could go maybe with Esther, specifically because she isn't trying to show up and like take over the kingdom or anything, right? She's just thrown into this thing. And it's like, well, what do I do with this? And you even have like some of her characters, even though she's Muslim, so they don't give like Bible verses out, but they quote the Quran and they're like, maybe you have these powers for a reason. And she does something with that. And so, yeah, I think I can go with Esther there. But in a weird way, this is going to be like the most sacrilege thing I say. There isn't a character in the Bible short of like Jesus that inspires me as much as Kamala. So like all of it, I'm like feels disingenuous to be like, yeah, that's it. So that's where I'm at. That's my number 2. Sorry, I went on too long. Christian,
she's real genuine. There's a reason she's so beloved. It's not her fault that she doesn't have great writers at this moment in time that can actually have a successful series.
The giant size comics were great.
So for my number 2, so my general idea behind this is I was going to choose someone from different forms of media. And if you've already seen one of the images that preceded this, it's still the same franchise, but it's a different form of media. So I'm cheating, as I often do. And my choice for my second pick is Darth Freya from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. One of my favorite video game of all time. She is your mentor character in this. She is an older woman who fought with the Jedi forever ago. You never really know where she stands starting off. She's always philosophizing about the nature of the Force and what your morality should be. And some people find it extremely annoying, but I appreciate a character like her because she challenges things in a game that starts off as a deconstruction of the mythos of Star Wars, then becomes a reconstruction of why we care about these things, why it is a good thing that they're a Jedi and we're not pro-Sith or something like that. And along the way, you find out that, like I said, she used to be a Jedi, then she fell to the dark side, became a Sith, and now is trying to guide you to destroy the Force itself. As part of her way, she's seen all the endless fighting between Jedi and Sith, and she wants it done. And I just that brokenness and bitterness I can identify to a lot of that at times when I'm on my worst days. But I also see at the very end how she does eventually, depending on your choices, become redeemed, come closer to the light again in her own Kreia-ish way. Because I don't think she could ever be pro Jedi again, but she's more pro you, the player character, because she kind of views you as her surrogate like daughter. Because Exile is canonically female, and student, and seeing her growth along the way is huge because she's very prickly. I could have also put Mother Augur on this list from Dark Crystal. We're very much aligned in that way. We're very prickly people, but along the way, like the things soften down, and I appreciate how she starts off this journey and where she ends up. And as for biblical characters, I'm actually going to throw out Naomi. from the Book of Ruth in her Mara phase, as it were. It's like, look, I've lost everything. Naomi, I can't go by that name. Call me Mara because my life is bitter. And yes, there's also Mara Jade in Star Wars, and she's an honorable mention. But this, just keeping a biblical part here, separate from that. So I see her as someone who's broken and is looking for a reason to live again. And you kind of help provide that, depending on your choices, because you can go light or dark in the game.
Yeah. Good.
Hey, podcast fam. Want to stay even more connected with the show? We've got you covered. Check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we're posting exclusive content and bonus videos and fun updates that you won't get anywhere else. From sneak previews of upcoming episodes to bonus content, our social accounts are the best way to keep the conversation going. Plus, it's a great spot for you to interact with other listeners and share your thoughts. We love hearing from you. When you follow us, it helps us grow and continue bringing you the content that you love. Whether it's a funny poll, a quick clip from today's episodes, or just random thoughts, you'll feel more plugged into everything we're doing. So go ahead and hit that follow button on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's one more way to be a part of the show and keep the good vibes flowing. Thanks for being a part of the family, and we can't wait to see you there.
I'm going to be on the same train as well.
Oh, boy.
My number 2, and this was a toughie, Princess Leia.
Yeah.
I know. I went back and forth with 1 and 2, but I mean, such a beloved character, especially in a series where women, at least in the OG 3, didn't have a huge part in what was happening. But the reason that I watch these, as you'll know if you listen to my podcast, is I watch these relatively recently as a group, because I have a Star Wars fanatic for a husband. And I just remember how important I found her character, not necessarily the same way that I did for the representation of Doctor Who, but it was more just like how just like good, like her decision making throughout the whole thing. It just felt like she was constantly like doing what was best for her people and also the people that she was with. And I appreciate it when Yoda says, he's training Luke, and everyone hates this, but Luke is my least favorite character in Star Wars.
Me too. Well, him and Anakin. I don't like Anakin either.
It's a real problem. He's a real whiny little thing.
Yes. And then Yoda, thank you.
They're like, oh, but he's the one. And Yoda says, there is another, very famously. And the idea is, they're twins. They have these, I don't think they explored it as much as they should have. Her being kind of a counterpoint to Luke in that way, but also sharing a lot of the same things. But she was constantly, from the minute, Obi-Wan, you're the only one that can help. It's just, she's just constantly trying to work towards the good of everyone and be this leader. And she doesn't really get the fanfare, I think, that Luke does, until she puts on a gold bikini for aforementioned reasons. Comparing her to somebody in the world, in the biblical world, I'm going to say, you'd mentioned Junia, who is called the Apostle Junia, I should say. And also, I would say Deborah, who take on these roles, and, Deborah being a prophet, and quite an important prophet in that sense, and a judge, and they oftentimes just get glossed over to focus on other aspects of it. But they're such important characters working underneath. And so I think that would be Princess Leia for me.
Yeah. Yeah. As I've matured and grown, Princess Leia has become a favorite for other reasons, more mature reasons, I would say. I agree. And I also am like, I would never compare myself to Han Solo, like, much as I want to. That's not me. But how she fits Han Solo, and it's like, man, nobody else could have put him in his place the way that he needed. I feel like my wife has done the exact same thing for me. Like, nobody else could have put me in my place quite the way I needed to be.
Well, when I watch it, it's just like there's a bunch of guys being like, shiny things. And she's like, hey, can we stay here on the straight and narrow just a little bit? Can we maybe get off the Death Star? I'm just like, So anyway, she's my number 2. I'm
going to backtrack and pull an ADHD number right here real quick. I feel like I should have said Ruth to correlate with Belle, because like Ruth definitely does that number of like my family's my adventure. But yeah, sorry, ADHD sidetracked. I couldn't help myself. I was like, oh wait a minute, that would have been better. Anyway, number 1 picks. Here we go. I am really excited for this. This isn't going to surprise Christian. It might surprise other people who are like a normal and don't know who this is. Aqua from the Kingdom Hearts franchise. I'm sorry, Will. I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry, Will. I love Aqua. Aqua is incredible. And Aqua embodies the thing that my wife always makes fun of me for. Like, we'll start a TV show or we'll start like, whatever. And I'm like, I hate this character. And she's like, yeah, the first person you say you hate is always your favorite by the end. Always, literally every time. And that's what happened. I was like, Aqua comes on the scene and she's like that stereotypical, like, I don't use this wording, but like for people to understand, you're like, wow, her name should have been Karen. And you're like, she comes on the scene. She's very like to the point, by the rules, like kind of bland to me. And I'm like, I don't need another girl who's like, oh, we're going to play you by the book and we're going to do everything right. And I'm like, this is annoying. Why is it always the female character who's like this? I don't like these people. It was the last person I played through the game through as, and also the absolute best ending. She is.
We don't have
incredible.
the luxury to be rebellious, Joshua.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get that.
I'm joking, but not in a way.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that makes sense. But anyway, but she comes to the end of this game, and the other two characters. So there's like 3 main characters. There's not Roxas, and then Kristen's dying to correct me.
Ventus and Terra.
Not Roxas and Terra, and Aqua. And you play through the game 3 times to get the full story. And of course I did Terra. I mean, not Terra. I did Ventus first because I'm like, oh, he looks like Roxas, who is like the nobody of our main character. Like, it's related to the actual main character of the franchise. And I'm like, oh, of course I'm going to do him first. And then I did Terra because he's the guy who smashes things. And I like smashing things. And like, this was fun. And then you get to Aqua because I just have to complete it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I get through it. And it's like, whoa, okay. Not only is she the one who saves Roxas by hiding his heart in someone else when he is completely deceived because he's just a dumb man. What's the thank you. What's the guy's name that you talked about earlier that literally means ignorant?
Naval. Yeah,
that's Ventus. He just falls for everything the whole time. Like, this guy comes up who's like in a Darth Vader mask going, he's not literally, but this is like what it feels like. And he's like, I'm not a bad guy. I'm here to teach you the way of how to be a good guy. And he's like, oh yeah, no, this guy's totally good. You're like, what, huh? Anyway, that's Ventus. And then you have Terra, who falls for things because like he falls into anger, and anger of course leads to the dark side. And this game isn't Star Wars, but it is.
Number is a huge Star Wars nerd.
Yeah. But which is hopeful for other things in the future. Anyway, Terra kind of falls because of that. So what you have at the end is Aqua doing this number where she hides Roxas' heart to protect him, literally pushes Terra out of the way into falling into a dimension of complete and utter darkness, does the sacrifice play, and the game ends on that. And it's like, holy crap, this character I despised literally saves everyone. And then you get the story, the fragment passage that I've fallen more in love with specifically this year as I played it for its own purpose. And she's literally completely in darkness alone. And you see how everything falls because there's no memory. There's no one to relate to. There's nothing. And how she somehow is just strong enough that she's resisting the madness. She's resisting the darkness. She's resisting falling into everything until she meets the king, who just kind of accidentally bumps into her. And she finds a way out. Like, she maintains strength in darkness with no connection at all to come back to her friends that she sacrificed literally everything for. And I'm like, man, incredible character. She doesn't inspire me as much as, Kamala, but like, I don't know. Something about what she did is just so stinking cool. And I could never. And I admire that. So that's my number 1, Aqua, Kingdom Hearts. Will's too drunk to hear the rest of the episode, and I'm sorry.
Aqua's a great pick. But for me, before we get that way, I will very quickly go over my honorable mentions. Just names and franchises. Laura Rosalind, Battlestar Galactica, Aqua, Kingdom Hearts, appropriately enough. Pira Nikos, Ruby, Mary Jane Watson, Marvel, Ace, Doctor Who, Best Companion, Homura Akemi, Madoka Magica, Sarah Connor, the Terminator, Cutie Honey of Cutie Honey, Hermione Granger, Harry Potter, Motoko Kusanagi, Ghost in the Shell, Noriko Takaya, Gunbuster, Dana Scully, X-Files, Oscar Langley Soyu, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Princess Ariel, Little Mermaid, Relina Peacecraft, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing.
Okay,
But,
well, if we're doing that,
go ahead.
The one that I left out that I wanted to cheat and throw in there still somehow, so I'm still cheating because Christian cheated, and this is my excuse. Writer from Scotty Young's Ain't No Grave graphic novel comic book series. So cool. Literally, it's just like, you know what? I'm dying. I used to be an outlaw, used to be like a cowboy, just total badass. Now that I'm dying, I'm just gonna go find death and just defeat him. And she leaves her family to go do that. And you know, it gets into a lot of like, should we accept death? Should we fight it? And stuff. Also, Western fantasies, just so cool. But yeah, no, I just love her ability to both be a mom and also the one that's like, I'm going to stay alive. I'm going to fight death. And even if that's a wrong reaction, I still admire the gumph, you know, like, yeah, she's cool. That's all. Any honorable mention for Leah before we do the last?
So my honorable mentions are Neve Campbell in Scream, because Scream is my favorite horror film. And she, again, very, very, it's great. It's great. And very close to the Halloween pick. I think Laurie Strode is the first. And then Clarice Starling, which no one mentioned, Silence of the Lambs. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
right.
she made it through, and that was a tough one.
Yeah.
Also, and I can't remember her name, but I was thinking of it when Christian was talking. But have you guys seen The Last of Us? The show?
Yeah,
And Mormont. I just remember her from Game of Thrones. She was
Ellie.
Lady Mormont.
Yeah,
but I don't know what her name is on the show.
Yeah, Ellie.
Ellie, that's it. She's kind of an awesome character.
Oh yeah, she's great too.
Like, she's doing it. So
yeah, I also love Kyrie, but she's not a main protagonist.
But my number one, surprisingly enough, in literature, so not in Star Wars video games, but Star Wars literature, is going to be Jaina Solo, Leia's daughter. She and her twin brother Jason are become the new protagonists of sorts of, you know, the books that are written before Disney came in and Disney did everything. And she is awesome. She starts off like Jason does. Yeah, the two of them, they're strong in the Force. They're in Yavin 4, learning under Luke's direction, which is what any competent company would have done. But that's another separate issue. And she, along the way, learns what it means to be a Jedi, what it means to be someone who's protecting people, but at the same time learning, hey, this Force thing, I don't have it. I have it. Other people don't. What does that mean? And then you have the Yuzan Vong come on the scene, and they have no connection to the Force whatsoever. So what does she do? Does she whine about it? Does she philosophize about it all day long? No, she becomes an active participant in trying to protect people. As an actual pilot, you know, she's very much her daddy's girl in many respects, and in some ways even surpasses Han. And along the way, she also learns that she is a very haughty character too. She thinks too highly of herself and learns some humility along the way. Say, you're good at this stuff, but at the same time, you got to have a better, you know, look at a self-reflection, honest of who you actually are, of what you need to do, what your flaws are. And she flirts with the dark side for a little bit, but then comes back to the light and becomes a leader in the new Jedi Order. To the point where if things had continued, I think one of the things I was thinking for a biblical character I would include if they had actually kept going would actually be Lois, which would be Timothy's grandmother, which I think some people might find odd. But like, I think if Jaina had been allowed to continue to grow as a character, that's exactly who she would have been, someone guiding the next generation towards truth, towards serving the people as what a Jedi should do.
I like that. Also, just so everyone knows, I came this close to adding Rey to my list to infuriate Christian, but I was going to throw in there that I specifically meant Rey from Duel of the Fates that never got made, but she was way cooler in that.
I was going to mention Ahsoka as well.
Oh, Ahsoka. Yeah. Ahsoka does deserve a shout out at least. Yeah.
And I liked Rey, but that's his thing from a different.
Yeah. We'll get there.
We'll get there. My last pick, which will surprise no one, is of course Ripley from Alien. Is Ripley, yeah, from Aliens. And I think I've said a lot of this on the podcast that I did at Beer Camp with Ryan, and you can go back and
I'll link
listen.
that in the description too.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look at horror and you look at just complete and utter just survival and like just a boss, I think Ripley is that. I mean, she truly just takes over the whole, she is the narrative of that and of that movie. And then just kind of in the second one too, to some degree, but I do think the first movie, the Alien movie where Ripley is there, you're just so confident that and I think that's something with my female characters is resilience, but it's also confidence that they are playing the same role that if you had a male character there, that you would feel even better, honestly, with the female character in this sense. And so when I'm looking at the ship and she's there, I'm like, I'm going with her. And she's not the strongest one. And she is, all the tropes that you get, she's a woman. So, she's, crying, hysterical, et cetera, et cetera. Can't read the Bible and all that. So when she's there, you're just like, oh no, I'm going to go with her. I think I'm going to be over here. And so for me, that is like when you have a female lead who you don't even realize is like the gender stuff doesn't even come into it. They're just awesome. They're doing awesome things. That's where I feel like you really get it. The kind of hero quality. And then I would say biblical, someone that my namesake has her own history in the Old Testament, which is interesting in itself. But I'm going to say Eve, because I feel like we can't do a discussion and not have Eve in there. And part of that is just the way I taught a class about the history of female characters. And the way she and Mary Magdalene throughout theological history have just been absolutely destroyed in popular culture and art and, just seeing the progression of them becoming more and more objects, and not just objects, seductive objects. Like they're no longer characters anymore. They're like the Pamela Anderson. I've made the quip, but it's true. They become it's not just they're women, it's that they've become these pornographic style of a woman. And I think with Alien, Ripley gets to be just herself. Like she is not Lara Croft. Like she doesn't look like that, and she still is the hero of that tale. And to me, to be able to maintain yourself throughout history, if you're a woman, is tough.
I feel like modern Lara Croft doesn't look like Lara Croft. I feel like we've learned that maybe that's not the best way to show every single female character.
I kind of like that we're moving past it. Like they don't have to have like double D boobs and a size negative waist for them to kick ass. I don't think. I'm just waiting for us to have more superhero males that have a little bit of like a slight beer gut and is balding. That's what I want. Just like dad bod.
Yeah.
I want some like middle-aged ladies that are out there just like, oh God,
why not?
Perimenopause is not the best, but you know what? Like, come on.
There's a great new Marvel movie came out very recently, Thunderbolts. You'll love it compared to a certain other film.
It's an awful, awful bad film. But that's okay, I guess. I think it's right there with Iron Man 3 for me. Like those two are just the worst MCU movies for me.
The MCU is a complete gap in my geek knowledge. Like I
apologize.
Oh, it's okay. No, I know. I can't do them all. I can't do. Yeah, I can't do the whole Star Wars. And
you don't have to get into everything.
Yeah. That's why we have so many hosts, because we can't. And not one of us can get into all of it. But if we get like 12 of us, we probably could cover most of it.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Like I had my husband go see Endgame with some friends of mine because I didn't even see the start game. I don't know what we're so sad about here, except for some hunky dudes dying. That's all I got.
I think the sad one was a better movie, like Infinity War. It's so good. But anyway, we're running up on time, but I did want to like reflect on some of our answers here because we had some really good. Just kind of curious from you guys, like what main characteristics do you find that you're from these characters that you're like, these are the characteristics that are most admirable, or like, I don't know, maybe this is why it's important that we have these characters that are kind of challenging the stereotypes of how females have been portrayed in past media. You guys can think of anything broadly to reflect on that? I have a few thoughts, but
yeah, I mean, I think just the trust element is a big thing. Like to trust them, in a lot of stuff that I used to watch. I'm an 80s kid, and the women were sort of background characters or didn't really do much. And this idea that that you trust them to do what they say they're going to do. And for me, that is a real characteristic of these people that we've mentioned, is if they say, like, if Leia says, I'm going to get you off this ship, you know, I trust that she will do it to her best ability. And I think for me, you know, we relied a lot on superheroes or these characters to be, you know, Henry Cavill style, like giant humans, and would like bash out that. And that's sort of Ripley's thing too, is you see these giant men with these giant guns just get eviscerated by this alien, and somehow she's able to survive and I would trust her. So you trust their intellect and their bravery. And in many ways, their problem-solving skills are a lot more. They're less emotional. So you almost flip the trope in a way with some of these characters. And it doesn't mean, like, much like Doctor Who and Jodie Whittaker, it doesn't mean that the feelings aren't there, that you're not being, you know, what you might describe as stereotypical feminine. It's still there. It's just that it's being expressed in a different way.
Yeah. For me, just thinking back on my picks, I don't think the ones that inspire me the most, I think it's important they're female for like kind of a weird reason, kind of to get a little bit meta. I think it gets around some of the annoying stereotypes of men that would prevent men from being able to have the same qualities that I admire. So like Princess Bean, part of why you dislike her so much in the beginning is because like a woman drinking and belching and acting that way, you can't be that. Like she has that stereotype. And in the end goes all the way to being like the king. And it's like, wait, women can't be king. They got to be queen, you know, whatever. And she's like this strong leader and all this stuff. And she doesn't, I don't know. To me, I think it helps that she was female, because if it was a man, you'd be like, okay, so he went from one toxic male personality to another toxic male personality. You know, I just don't think it would have been inspiring. You know, Kamala, just like men being nerdy is looked down upon. You know, you're not supposed to care about things. You're not supposed to be as passionate about these things. You're supposed to be stoic and all this. And like, so it would be kind of cool to have a man nerd do that. But I think it's important that it wasn't, because the story didn't need to be about that. It just needed to be about the fact that, hey, if we realize what these things are about, we can get back on track. And I think it's important that Kamala was a girl for that reason. I'm saying her name different every time now, and I apologize. And then even Aqua, like, if she didn't come off as like a Karen in the beginning, that I was like, I don't think I like this person, I don't think it would have impacted me as much that she is the one that literally saves everything. Nothing in Kingdom Hearts that is good happens without Aqua. And like, I don't know. So for all of them, I think it needed to be a female lead, or it just wouldn't have impacted me. So it's that sacrifice, it's that passion, and just the character arcs of it. It's just what really draws me to these and inspires me, and I think makes me better, maybe even a better Christian, maybe.
Well, and I think too, what you're saying is it's also breaking down these I mean, you said the word Karen, and then you said, you know, she's drinking and she's doing all this stuff. Yeah. And it's like all of these stereotypes, and the men stereotypes too. You know, I think what it's saying is that gender roles are socially constructed, and you can hear what I'm saying. Gender roles are socially constructed. All right. And a guy can nerd out and cry and be upset. And then you can get, you know, a woman who is like, get on my ship. We're getting out of here. Right. But just know that isn't because you're male and female. Like it's the fact that it's giving permission for people to be multifaceted. And I think that is important. Like it's offering that space. You know, I'm the one in my household that does a lot of stuff that could be characterized as, quote, male gender roles. And, you know, Stuart is the feeler and the nerdy guy who's taking me on this journey. And it's like, that's okay. Like, let's have space for that, you know?
Yeah. Really ironically, whenever we were doing the pre-marriage counseling with the pastor, they had like a book we had to go through, like everything your parents did around the house. And it was just so funny. I just didn't realize how many things my dad did that most people think that's what moms do. And like, my dad, like, he worked from home a lot. He did most of the home chores, and I just didn't think that was weird. You know, of course men do the laundry and cook. What do you mean?
Well, like when they passed like paternity leave at Stuart's job, and I was like, absolutely. Like, what if I was an executive and not a teacher? You know, but also he should have the right to have that. Like and I think that's what some of this does, is it's good for it's good for society to see this, I think, because it allows you to operate in different spheres.
Yeah. Christian, any reflections?
Yeah, I think the common thread I saw is I think I just tend to like competent people who, at the same time, can also be
if only someone would tell the American electorate that.
Yeah, that'd be nice on all sides of the equation there. Just competent people at the same time can also be vulnerable and honest about their failures and how they're working on themselves. I think all 5 of those, even Kreia is probably the one that the least involved with that, but along the way she does admit sometimes when she's wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, when it comes to characters, gender and race have never factored into why I like someone. Like I just care about someone writing competent characters. And I think why I dislike a lot of modern Hollywood storytelling with some women, I'm not saying all women, that they write, is that they try and overcompensate for how women haven't been portrayed well by just making them practically flawless in every way. And making them just an ace with no reason for it, or giving them no reason for why they can do what they can do, versus saying, hey, I'm good at this, but I suck at this, or you're good at that, so let me help you out here. So when it comes to all this, like, look, I just love these characters for who they are. And yeah, they're women. Yeah, I like the men too that I have in my top whatever for them. I haven't made that list because it's the most recent one I've made.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, I love Zorro. Zorro's cool. He'll never be one of my tops because like he's basically just a flawless hero who beats the bad guys, you know, and like that's not fun. It's fun when your characters have some flaws, you know, and it's more fun if they're flaws you don't expect them to have, you know. Like it's like, oh, that's fun. But yeah, anyway, with that, we do need to wrap this one up. First, of course, we're going to let you guys know there will be a bonus question. I might dip out and let Christian and Leah do it. If we could have a story with any 2 of the characters that we mentioned today meeting each other, who would we have meet? That's going to be it. So stick around after the show. It's going to be a ton of fun. I might stick around long enough to just see who I would want. Okay, anyway. My recommendation, if we're going to be doing recommendations, you know what? Cheating. Ain't No Grave, Scotty Young. Read about Ryder and death and really think about like, what is the meaning of death? Should I accept it? Should I try to fight against it? Should I rage against the cold, dark night? It's great literature. And sometimes comics can really hit you in the feels. And Scotty Young is great at that. Christian, what about you? Any recommendation?
I would like to see another competent woman. I mentioned her in my honorable mentions, but Ghost in a Shell, Standalone Complex, both seasons of that. Motoko Kusanagi, pretty dang awesome woman.
Yeah. Also, the manga for Kingdom Hearts 3, you can get all of Aqua's story without having to play the whole game.
Oh, also, don't watch the Scarlett Johansson film. You'll be better off.
All right, Leah, recommendation.
Yeah, so I'm in a banned book group with Christy Whaley, who is my co-host on Theology on the Rocks.
That's fun.
We would love for you to and anyone to join. But we recently read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, and that was, which got banned, by the way. hold for it for racism and climate change.
What?
That's what it got banned. So cool. We're cool. So I would definitely recommend, again, keeping it on the woman's side of things. It's a great book, but also All Boys Aren't Blue is the one that we read this month, and so I would recommend those. So I'm on the book train right now. So
nice. I know that Will would love to talk more about Parable of Sower with Olivia Butler. He's talked about her some on the show before. But anyway, guys, if you're listening or watching and you're on a laptop, consider rating and reviewing our show on Podchaser or Good Pods or YouTube, I guess. It's going to help our show gain recognition and make it easier to find in search engines like Google, which is where people look for things. If you're on your phone, consider rating, reviewing, or commenting on our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's going to help prioritize our show in those apps' algorithms. It literally takes seconds, helps the show a lot, and we really, really appreciate it. We also appreciate our financial supporters on Apple Podcasts, Captivate, and Patreon. Today, we're shouting out Daniel Sigmund. Daniel, you're truly amazing. Like, amazing.
Hey, Daniel.
Not as good as like Kamala or Kamala Khan, but like, you're still pretty cool, dude. Hey guys, remember, if you want your own shout out, you too can be like Daniel and support our show for $3 a month or more on one of those 3 platforms: Apple Podcasts, Captivate, or Patreon. And of course, we need you all to do one very important thing for us. And remember that we are all chosen people, the geekdom of priests.
Hey friends, your pal Will Rose here. Sometimes I ask myself, have you ever wondered how you can support Systematic Geekology? Yes. Yes, I have. And well, if you're like me, you want Systematic Geekology to continue to grow and thrive. And you can do that by joining Patreon for as little as $3 a month. As a patron, you get bonus episodes. We answer bonus questions that our patrons get to hear. We have special shout outs. We have certain episodes that the patrons pick. So you help us create and curate the content that we put out for the world to hear. You even get free merch. And when I say that we're a worldwide podcast, that I'm not being hyperbolic. Somebody told me that we have over 20,000 subscribers from all over the world, and just half of those subscribers join Patreon for $3 a month. We would be set on keeping moving forward with the tech that we need to have the quality of podcast that we want our hearers to experience. And it'll help us get to certain events and conventions so that we can see you face to face and geek out with you in person. And let me just share that there's no shame, no guilt. If you can't join Patreon at this point, that's okay. That's okay. Just keep listening, keep sharing, keep liking, because yes, we're proud of what we're doing at Systematic Geekology. And friends, guess what? You can subscribe to Patreon for free to receive one extra bonus episode a month via the Patreon or Spotify app. That is fantastic. And we're glad that you're a part of it.
Hello, Systematic Geekology listeners. This is Kevin here. Just want to give a brief ad for some of the other podcasts in our Anazao podcast network. First of all, off is Let Nothing Move You by Christian Ashley, in which Christian goes through the Bible one chapter at a time and gives his thoughts there. There is also the Bible After Hours, which is a more progressive take on the Bible that tries to challenge the status quo with satire and looks at theology. The host uses the pseudonym The Foul-Mouthed Preacher. And as a bonus, Joshua Noel does the voices for this one. So definitely check that one out. And also, and we'll laugh about that later, is the newest podcast that our own Will Rose is starting, where he will interview friends about a story they had that wasn't funny at the time, but that they laugh about now. So definitely check out these shows and subscribe to us wherever you get your pods. Thank you very much.